The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are reviewing the Guardian cards in the Lair of Dagon, the 5th Mythos pack in the Innsmouth Conspiracy Cycle. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Just a quick reminder of how we rate cards here on The Whisper in Darkness. The best of the best get an Elder Sign, while the worst of the worst get a Tentacle, and the cards in between get a +1, 0, or Elder Thing, respectively. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these player card reviews. If you'd like to support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. How are you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing well, man from Lang. How about yourself?
I am doing all right. It's a bit overcast here today, so it's a good time to review some Arkham Horror LCG cards. We are taking a look at the Lair of Dagon pack, which I finally received from my retailer. The first Guardian card in the pack is Enchant Weapon. It is a 3-cost event that costs 3 experience points. It has 2 willpower and 1 combat skill icon. The spell and upgrade traits: attached to a weapon asset controlled by an investigator at your location, limit 1 per asset. Attached asset gains the relic trait and takes up an arcane slot in addition to its other slots. As a response, when you perform a fight action using attached asset, exhaust this card, add the owner of this card's willpower to your combat for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. What do you think about this one, Nate?
This seems pretty good, honestly. The fact that you get extra damage, you get a decent boost. Most Guardians have a decent willpower, like Zoe and Sister Mary, I believe, both have 4, right?
Yeah, generally it's 3 or 4. I don't think there's very many low willpower Guardians, that's for sure.
Yeah, so it's a decent boost both in damage and in combat strength, and it gives your weapon the relic trait, which is nice for things like the poltergeist and the enemies in Circle Undone?
Yeah, there's a wraith or of some kind.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of enemies that can't be hit by weapons unless they're relic traded. So this is a pretty good card. It's got 2 willpower skill icons as well, so if you don't need it, you can always pitch it for guts. It is a little costly at 3 resources and 3 experience, but I think it's pretty worth it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got the spell trait. I mean, that synergizes with a ton of cards if you happen to be playing a mystic who can take this. I think most Guardians would happily exchange an arcane slot to make their weapon more powerful if they don't need those. If they don't happen to need those arcane slots, and like you mentioned, the relic trait is very good for dealing with select enemies. I mean, mostly in the Path to Carcosa and the Circle Undone, but who knows in the future whether relic might receive a little bit more. Might be a little bit more relevant, but I mean, Guardians do have average to above average willpower, so you are getting a substantial boost, and the extra damage is permanent damage, mind you, is excellent. I mean, there aren't that many cards that add permanent damage to weapons. So the only bad thing I can really say about this is that it's you have to exhaust the enchant weapon on your weapon, so you're only going to get this big boost basically once per turn, and it's limit 1 per asset, so unfortunately you can't double enchant your weapon and then exhaust 1 for 1 attack and exhaust it again for another. But that +1 damage should be enough. If you're getting 3 damage in 1 attack and 2 in another, that's going to deal with most enemies in the game.
Mm-hmm. And if you can combine it with something like a Vicious Blow, you can deal upwards of 4 damage in a single attack.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems really good for weapons like Time-Worn Brand and Machete, weapons that don't have ammunition to them, so you can just keep laying on damage.
Yeah. So how would you rate this one?
I'm debating between a 0 and a +1, simply because I think it is a little expensive. I think in a lot of campaigns, it can be hard to get enough experience to get this and the weapon you'd want to attach it to. So I think other than that, it's very solid. So I'm kind of debating between those two.
Yeah, it is. 3 XP is pretty, does require a commitment, and you're probably going to want two for sure. So that's six. And if you're buying a decent weapon, you're probably already on the hook for six for this, plus another 8 to 10 for a good weapon. So that's a 16 XP for the package. Is that's going to take up most of your XP, at least for the, and then if you want stick to the plan, there's another, what is that, 6 or 8.
Hmm.
So it does require some commitment. I think I'm going to settle on +1 for this. I think if you're, I'm not sure I would be able to afford this if I was playing in a solo campaign where I might have upgrades I would want. But I think I would just have to settle for buying a good weapon rather than this and a weapon if I wanted to upgrade. I think in solo you tend to earn a little bit less experience points than you do in multiplayer. But I think if you were playing a dedicated guardian in multiplayer and all you were really concerned about is killing enemies as efficiently as possible, then I don't think you can go wrong by picking up a couple copies of this.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately it's definitely not a card that you could replace your weapon with, just because it's dependent on having a weapon in play, but it, like you said, it exhausts, so you're only going to get that boost once. So it's not something that you can depend on for all of your damage output. So
No. But yeah, it's definitely I think it's a nice addition to the Guardian card pool for sure. It certainly fills in, I think, some of the gaps that Guardians have. The second Guardian card in the pack is Nephthys. She is a 3-cost asset that costs 4 experience points. She has a willpower and 2 combat skill icons, the ally and blessed traits. You get +1 willpower. As a response, when one or more blessed tokens would be removed from the chaos bag during a skill test, you can seal them on Nephthys instead. As a free triggered ability, you can exhaust Nephthys, either release 3 blessed tokens sealed on her, or you can return 3 blessed tokens sealed on her to the token pool to deal 2 damage to an enemy at your location. She has 2 health and 2 sanity, and the ally takes up an ally slot. What do you think about Nephthys, Nate?
So there was another card that we had looked at that you had to draw multiple blessed tokens in order to activate it, whereas this one you only need one, which is definitely a lot nicer than having to draw multiples. I think that being said, it is very costly, both in experience, and I feel like the effect is going to be a little bit unreliable. It is nice that you can kind of get the blessed tokens on her and then use it when you need it. But I feel like the rest of her is pretty mediocre for the amount of investment that you're putting into it.
Yeah, you're looking at 8 XP if you want the 2 copies. I mean, I think she's pretty. I mean, +1 willpower is nice. For Guardians, there's quite a few. They have quite a few more options now. I think between her and Police Badge and the Holy Rosary that we looked at in one of the packs earlier in this cycle. It's nice that she sort of solves one of the main issues with the blessed tokens, is that you always seem to draw them in multiples. It seems to either when it rains it pours blessed tokens, and if you happen to draw more than one or even just one, you can put them on her and save them and then send them back, and dealing 2 damage is pretty nice without taking a skill test. But yeah, I think with Nephthys, you really need to be playing a Blessed deck, which probably means Sister Mary for sure. And then, typically Nephthys would probably work well with Mateo, but of course he can't take her because she costs too many experience points. So I don't have a lot of experience with the Guardian Blessed deck, so it's hard to say whether this is an ally I would prefer to pick up as opposed to some of the other very solid Guardian allies that are out there.
Yeah, this feels like a Sister Mary card to me, like just Sister Mary. I don't know if there are many other Guardians that would want this card. Maybe Zoe, just because she could also take spells and other cards that add bless tokens. But I think apart from those two investigators, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed in finding space for this ally.
How would you rate this card?
I think I'd give it a 0. I think in Sister Mary you could make this card do a lot of work for you, and maybe Zoe too. But I think apart from a couple investigators, I don't really see a lot of other people wanting to take this.
Yeah, I think 0's a good spot for it. It's the ally slot is one of the hardest slots to judge in this game because it is so competitive, and it really seems investigator specific a lot of the time. There are certain investigators and deck types want one ally above all the others, and so I have a feeling there's probably a deck that wants Nephthys, and most of the others will be just like, nah, I'll take one of the other allies that's on offer. That's going to do it for our look at the Guardian cards in the Lair of Dagon. We have a couple good ones for the Guardians. Enchant Weapon, a nice way to get a damage boost and a combat boost, and Nephthys provides a little bit more support for the Blessed deck. Any final thoughts, Nate?
I think this is a pretty good pack for Guardians, honestly. It covers two bases that I think that the Guardian card pool needed, which was more support for the Blessed deck, and I think upgrades in general needed a bit of a buff, but yeah, I think these are good cards.
That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.